The poor and the middle class do not have the same resources. They sit there and let the government needles enter their arms and allow the blood donation to begin. Today, I am constantly shocked at the number of people who pay more taxes or take fewer deductions simply because they are afraid of the government. And I do now how frightening and intimidating a government tax agent can be. And I do know how frightening and intimidating a government tax agent can be. I have had friends who have had their businesses shut down and destroyed only to find out it was a mistake on the part of the government. I realize all that, but the price of working from January to mid May is a high price to pay for the intimidating. My poor dad never fought back. My rich dad didn't either. He just played the game smarter and he did it through corporation, the biggest secret of the rich. You may remember the first lesson I learned from my rich dad. I was a little boy of 9 who had to sit and wait for him to choose to talk to me. I often sat in his office waiting for him to get to me. He was ignoring me on purpose. He wanted me to recognize his power and desire to have that power for myself one day. For all the years I studied J and learned from him, he always reminded me that knowledge was power. And with money comes great power that requires the right knowledge to keep it and make it multiply. Without that knowledge, the world push you around. Rich that constantly remind Mike and me that the biggest bully was not the boss or the supervisor, but the taxman. The taxman will always take more if you let him. The first lesson of having money work for me as opposed to working for money is really all about power. If you work for money, you give the power up to your employer. If you money works for you, you keep and control the power. Once we had the knowledge of the power of money working for us, he wanted us to be financially smart and not let bullies push us around. You need to know the law and how the system works. If you are ignorant, it is easy to be bullied. If you know what you are talking about, you have a frightening chance. That is why he paid so much for a smart tax, so much for a smart tax accountant and attorney. It was less expensive to pay the government. His best lesson to me, which I have used most of my life: be smart and you won't be pushed around as much. He knew the law because he was a law abiding citizen. He knew the law because it was expensive to know the law. If you know you are right, you are not afraid of fighting back, even if you are taking on Robin Hood and his band of merry men. My highly educated dad always encouraged me to seek a good job with a strong corporation. He spoke to the virtues of working your way up the corporation ladder. He didn't understand that by relying solely on a paycheck from a corporate employer, I would be a docile cow ready for milking. When I told my rich dad of father's advice, he only chuckled. Why not own the ladder? Was all he said. As a young boy, I did not understand what rich dad mean by owning my own corporation. It was an idea that seems impossible and intimidating, although I was excited by the idea. My youth would not let me envision the impossibility that grown ups would someday work for a company I would own. The point is, if not for my rich dad, I would have probably followed my educated dad advice. It was merely the occasional reminder of my rich dad that kept the idea of owning my own corporation alive and kept me on a different path. By the time I was 15 or 16, I knew I was not going to do it, but I was determined not to head in the direction most of my classmates were heading. That decision changed my life. It was not until I was in my mid 20s that my rich dad advice began to make more sense. I was just out of the Marine Corps and working for Xerox. I was making a lot of money, but every time I looked at my paycheck, I was always disappointed the deduction was so large, and the more I worked, the greater the deduction. As I became more successful, my bosses talk about promotion and raises. It was flattering, but I could hear my rich dad asking me in my ear, "How are you working for? Who are you working for? Who are you making rich?" In 1974, while still an employee for Xerox, I formed my first corporation, began minding my own business. There were already a few assets in my assets column, but now I was determined to focus on making it bigger. Those paycheck will all the deduction made all the years of my rich dad advice make total sense. I could see the future if I followed by educated dad advice. Many employers feels that advising their workers to mind their own business is bad for business. I am sure it can be certain individual, but for me focusing on my own business developing assets make me a better employer. I now had a purpose. I came in early and worked diligently, amazing as much money as possible so I could begin investing in real estate. Hawaii was just set to boom, and there were four fortunes to be made. The more I realized we were in the beginning stage of a boom, the more Xerox machine I sold, I, I sold, the more money I made. Out of the trap of being an employer so badly that I work harder. Not less. By 1978, I was constantly one of the top of the salespeople in sales, often number one. I badly wanted out of the rat race. In less than 3 years, I was making more in my own little corporation, which was a real estate holding company, than I was making at Xerox. And the money I was making in my asset column in my own corporation was money working for me, not me pounding on doors selling copiers. My rich dad advice made much more sense. Soon the cash flow from my properties was so strong that my company bought me my first Porsche. My father was a rock salesman thought I was spending my commission. I wasn't. I was investing my commission in assets. My money was working hard to make more money. Each dollar in my asset column was a great employee working hard to make more employees and buy the boss a new Porsche with before tax dollar. I began to work harder for Xerox. The plan was working and my Porsche was the proof. By using the lesson I learned from my rich dad, I was able to get out of the proverbial rat race of being an employee at an early age. It was made possible because of the strong financial knowledge I had acquired through these lessons. Without this financial knowledge, which I call financial IQ, my road to financial independence would have been much more difficult. I now teach others through financial seminars in the hope that I may share my knowledge with them. Whenever I do my talks, I remind people that financial IQ is made up of knowledge from four broad areas of expertise. Number one is accounting, what I call financial literacy, a vital skill if you want to build an empire. The more money you are responsible for, the more accuracy is required, or the house comes tumbling down. That is the left brain side, or the details. Financial literacy is the ability to read and understand financial statement. This ability allow you to identify the strength and weakness of any business. Number two is investing, what I call the science of money making money. This involves strategies and formulas, that is the right brain side on or the creative side. Number three is understanding market, the science of supply and demand. There is a need to know the technical aspect of the market, which is emotion driven. Tickle Me Elmo doll during Christmas 1996 is the case of a technical or emotional driving market. The other market factor is the fundamental or the economic sense of the investment. Does an investment make sense, or does it not make sense based on the current market condition? Many people think the concept of investing and understanding the market are too complex for kids. They fail to see that kids know those subjects intuitively. For those not familiar with the Elmo doll, it was a Sesame Street character that was highly tutored to the kids just before Christmas. Most all kids wanted one and put it at the top of their Christmas list. Many parents wonder if the company intentionally held the product of the market while continuing to advertise it for Christmas. A panic set is due to high demand and lack of supply. Having no dolls to buy in the store, scalpers saw an opportunity to make a small fortune from desperate parents. The unlucky parents who did not find a doll were forced to buy another toy for Christmas. The incredible popularity of the Tickle Me Elmo doll made no sense to me, but it served as an excellent example of supply and demand economics. The same thing goes on in the stock, bond, real estate, and baseball card market. Number four is the law. For instance, utilizing a corporation wrap around the technical skills of the accounting, investment, and market can aid explosive growth. An individual with the knowledge of the tax advantage and protection provided by a corporation can get rich so much faster than between someone walking and someone flying. The difference is profound when it comes to long term wealth. Number one, tax advantage. A corporation can do so many things that an individual cannot, like pay for expensive before it pay taxes. That is a whole area of expertise that is so exciting but not necessary to get into unless you have sizable assets or a business employee earn and get tax and they try to live on what is left. A corporation earn and spends everything it can and is tax on anything that is left. If one of the biggest legal tax loophole that the rich use, they are easy to set up and are not expensive if you own investment that are producing good cash flow. For example, by owning your own corporation, vacation or board meetings in Hawaii, car payments, insurance repairs are company expensive. Health club membership is a company expensive. Most restaurant meals are partial expensive, and on and on. But do it legally with pre-tax dollars, protection from lawsuit. We live in a litigious society. Everybody wants a piece of your action. The rich hide much of their wealth using vehicle, using as corporation and trust to protect their assets from creditors. When someone sue a wealthy individual, they are often met with lawyers of legal protection and often find that the wealthy person actually owns nothing. They cannot they control everything but owns nothing. The poor and middle class try to own everything and lose it to the government or to fellow citizens who like to sue the rich. They learned it from the Robin Hood story, take from the rich and give to the poor. It it is not the purpose of this book to go into the specifics of owning a corporation, but I will say that if you own any kind of legitimate asset, I would consider finding out more about the benefits and protection offered by a corporation as soon as possible. There are many books written on the subject that will detail the benefit and even walk you through the steps necessary to set up a corporation. One book in particular, Ink and Grow Rich, provides a wonderful in one book in particular, Ink and Grow Rich, provide a wonderful insight into the power of personal corporation. Financial IQ is actually the synergy of many skills and talents, but I would say it is the combination of the four technical skills listed above that make up basic financial intelligence. If you aspire to great wealth, it is the combination of these skills that will greatly amplify an individual financial intelligence. In summary, number one, number one is spend, number two pay taxes, number three is spend as part of your in summary, number one is spend, number two pay taxes, number three is spend. As part of your overall financial strategy, we strongly recommend owning your own corporation wrap around your assets. Chapter 6, Lesson 5, The Rich Invent Money. Last night I took a break from writing and watched a TV program on the history of a young man named Alexander Graham Bell. Bell had just patented his telephone and was having growing pains because the demand for his new invention was so strong, needing a bigger company. He then went to the giant at that time, Western Union asked them if they would buy his patent and his tiny company. He wanted $100,000 for the whole package. The president of the Western Union scoffed at him and turned him down, saying the price was ridiculous. The rest is history. A multi-billion dollar industry emerged. AT&T was born. The evening news came on right after the story of Alexander Graham Bell ended. On news was a story of another downsizing at a local company. The workers were angry and complained that the company ownership was unfair. A terminated manager of about 45 years of age had his wife and two babies at the plant and was begging the guard to let him talk to the owner to ask if they would reconsider his termination. He had just bought a house and was afraid of losing it. The cam the camera focused it on his pleading for all the world to see. Needless to say, it held my attention. I have been teaching professionally since 1984. It has been a great experience and rewarding. It is also a disturbing profession for I have taught thousands of individuals and I see one thing in common in all of us, myself included. We have been tremendous potential and we all are blessed with gift, yet the one thing that hold all of us back is some degree of self-doubt. It is not so much the lack of technical information that hold us back, but more the lack of self-confidence. Some are more affected than others.